Okay, I guess I'm live again. Been doing several of these today. I'm sorry that that last one had limited success. As I got more, I didn't realize that as I was going further and further into the mountains, the bandwidth, of course, was decreasing, and the quality was going down. I stopped in Palmdale, um, and I'm going to get some a late, very late lunch before I head home. I stopped here to see my mother, which is always a problematic thing because typically my mom isn't too interested in seeing me. So that's a situation of its own. What a strange thing when your own mother really doesn't want to see you. You know, um, I've mostly reconciled that fact to myself. Goodness gracious, look at this. I'm allowing myself when I'm adventuring. I'm not a vegan. I'm allowing myself a grand chimichanga. This is the place when I do visit mom, and when she does allow me to visit her, and when she's willing to go out and let me take her out to lunch. This is the place that she likes to come to. Well, she used to like to go to some place called Hometown Buffet. Disgusting, disgusting place. But that place went out of business. Thank you, Lord. Now I'm a believer. Hold on. Let me start whipping into this chimichanga. Mm. And if someone can give me an audio check, I'd appreciate it. How's the sound and how's the video? Is it coming through clearly? Now I asked the young woman behind the counter for the hottest. Hopefully that's what she's giving me here. Let's slather that on. I made a mess, but you know who cares? I have no problem making a mess when I'm out on the road. I need something that will hold down that lid to keep it from flying around. Oh, my water will do the job. So anyway, so well, I was up there after I was done visiting. I'm referring to my visit to my old homestead. Uh, Laura, just a moment, Laura. I was visiting up at the old family homestead, and after I got back into range, I called my mom, as I always do when I'm up here, because I'm the homestead is within striking distance. I can come see her, and normally, if I want to see my mom, if I try to arrange something ahead of time, it won't happen. She might say yes, but she'll invariably cancel on me last minute. However, if I'm in the area and call her up and let her know and ask if I can come by, she'll usually let me. This time, she invited me to come by, which is never happens. It's probably because I haven't seen her in so long. She basically she basically told me to stay out of her life about a year ago, and so I've respected that wish, and I call her every week. Every Saturday, I call her just to make sure she's still alive and not not in need. You know, I worry about her, and I worry about the two little dogs. Yeah, she's got, and frankly, it's my filial duty to to help her in her daughterage on her old age because she's in her 80s now. She's still pretty sprite and spunk. Still pretty well. She's pretty quick, but that's going to come to an end eventually. And we'll have to tend to that. So while I was up there after visiting the homestead, I called her up just to tell her about my experience. Secretly, I was hoping she would accept my suggesting to come say hi. Hey, another biker. I was hoping she would accept my suggestion. I was going to invite myself over, but she beat me to it. And she suggested, "Why don't you come on by?" Which was good, because in hindsight, I really probably shouldn't be visiting her, giving her age, on the fact of COVID. But I did go see her. It was very brief. I wore my mask. She wore her mask. We kept our social distance, but we didn't go out to lunch for obvious reasons. Social distance. We had a nice, pleasant chat. It was all very good. I think the key is to keep it to a minimum. Let her ask her questions, catch up on the news, and then get the hell out of there before things go south. Let's answer some questions or read comments. Laura says, I was not close to my parents. I would stop by their house as a way to say that I've done my part. I hear you loud and clear. Yeah. Thank you, Laura. It's a challenging thing, huh? I would love to be close to my mom. And I feel I'm one of those children that has this powerful sense of duty and obligation. You know, it's one of the reasons we went to Japan was kind of to be there a little bit for the old age of my wife's parents. Renee, the sound is great, and you don't make gross eating noises either. I don't? Yeah, I will try to remedy that. I can do that. Hey, I'm adventuring. I can make all the gross noises. But thank you. Thank you for the sound check. Tyler says, hey, you're back on being live here. Yeah, I am. Since I discovered how to do this, it's so darn easy. I can just turn this on whenever I got a signal. I'm going to show you some pictures too. And Mino from Facebook says, Mino from YouTube. See, I can see you coming from different places. Tyler was on Facebook. He's on Facebook. Mino is coming from YouTube. Howdy, Kurt. Howdy, Mino. Renee says, no, I guess no noises. I'll try to do my best to keep Yumiko and I were having ramen last weekend at Hiro Nori in Costa Mesa. Newport Beach? Costa Mesa. Usually it's hard to get into that place. But they have a nice outdoor seating now. And while we were sitting there having our ramen, good Japanese ramen place, I realized we were making a lot of slurping noises, because you're supposed to slurp in Japan with it like that, right? But I realized that we had no Japanese, let alone Asians, seating around us, all gaijin. And I read Yumiko and I said, Is it cool that we're slurping? She said something clever, but I can't remember. Laura says, how are your in-laws doing? Well, thank you for asking. My father-in-law, my Giri no Otosan, which literally means father of obligation father, is doing well. He built himself a new house about 3 years ago. So he's enjoying his twilight years, his golden years in great comfort. He's got a nice little room there right next to the river. You can hear the river. Giri no Okasan, obligation mother, has been dead about 3 years, sadly. Maybe it's 2. Dustin says, hey, Kurt. Hey, Dustin. Mino, what are you having now? I am having a chimichanga. This is the place that I usually take my mom when we have a meal together. So I thought I'd stop by here. I'm hoping to get home before dark. The cataract in my right eye makes it hard to see at night. So I don't want to be navigating through LA in the dark. Dustin says, are you still in the OC area? No. And by the way, you can hear the traffic noise? I'm right next to a big road. That's actually Palmdale Boulevard. So to answer your question, I'm not in OC. I'm in Palmdale right now, which is out in the desert. Have you ever heard of the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. Oh, experimental aircraft. It's right over here, about a mile away. So, let me show you some photos. I did the wrong thing again. From the trip today. So I went up to the. Oops, I forgot to undo the comment. Laura says, "Oh no, I did not know that. Sad to hear about Yumiko's mother. Good to hear her father's doing well. Huggles to all. Huggles right back at you and to your husband too, Laura." Let me show you some photos from the trip today. Okay. Oops, I forgot to undo the comment. There you go. Okay, this is a photo from. That's the actual property that I went to today. What's the foundation of? Here, let me try this. You don't have to see me in the background. Here, let's try this. Can I make this happen? No, I can't. So never mind. That's the actual foundation of the property. It's interesting though. If you look, you can see clearly the foundation structure, but in the background, in the back there. But if you can look at the foreground, you see a line of rocks coming straight at us from the structure. That's the original house. I don't know exactly when that house was built. When we came into Lake Hughes and bought this property in 1976. Spirit of 76. America was 200 years old. There was a house, an old house, built on that stone foundation. And then my dad, who had once been a carpenter, he was going to build onto it. So he poured that other foundation, and he never got around to building the house because the family broke up before that. So that's the house down in the wash of this canyon, which is Pine Canyon. Let's see here, another one. Now this means nothing to anybody else, but you notice the thing that was going across the bottom just a minute ago? Let's see, is it still going there? Yeah, there. No, it stopped. It stopped. Hold on, let me get it going again. I'm gonna figure this StreamYard out eventually. There we go. Everyone needs a life ruins, right? What I mean by that is, if our house had not burned down, then eventually it would have been sold to somebody else who may have lived there and had their own life, and slowly all of the artifacts of our living would have disappeared. It would have become somebody else's place. But because it burned down when we lived there, and no one ever moved in and took over, it's like a time capsule of our life. This saw is an example. I told you that my father was a carpenter at one time. Although when we were working here, he was working for TRW as a programmer. So it was in his early days that he was a carpenter. And this was one of his tools. So, though my life here, what was that, 40 years ago? And my dad's been gone 25 plus years. There's still stark reminders in visiting these ruins of the life that we once had, the people that we once were. It's like having your own time capsule that you can visit whenever you like. Okay, next photo. Oh wait, that's Molly. It's always, if you're going to stumble into another photo, it might as well be a Molly photo. Okay, this was our pump house. This was, oh goodness. We were so far up in the mountains, we had electricity and one telephone line that we shared with the neighbors. Yes, we had a party line. You'd pick it up, and someone else could be talking to the neighbors. You had to hang up. Or sometimes you could overhear people listening. You could hear breathing on the other end. One of the neighbors listening in on your call. It felt like, you know, what was that show? Anyway, this was the pump house. And that tank right there was where we kept all of our water. Pretty boring, but it meant something to me. Lyle and my brother spent a lot of time there. This is literally a hole in the wall. Lyle, I was calling him on the phone, my brother, while I was up there, and he asked me to find this. This was a hole that he and I dug in the side of the mountain for some unknown reason. Here's one with a really big memory. If you look closely at that, you'll see it's a handprint. This was a school project where you put down a piece of wet ceramic. A child would do that and imprint their hand on it and let it dry or cook it, and that would be the case. And I know that this was my brother because if you turn the piece over, there you go. You can see there's the L and the Y from the name Lyle. So I just put that back in place, so it'll be there as a time capsule next time I go. This was my bicycle wheel, or Lyle's. Can't tell which one which, but certainly the wheel of one of our bicycles. Oh, that's it. So there you go. A few bits of memories from there. So let me tell you about the bittersweet feeling that I had. Every time I go up there and I'm confronted with all the stuff that I remember from the past, it's so much different than a memory. And it's so much different than a photo or looking at a video from the past. You know, when you look through photo albums, it's like glimpsing an image of the past, you know, conveyed through cellophane and chemicals. Or even when you have an artifact in the house that, you know, an heirloom that's passed down generation to generation, it feels like it's been loved and cared for all along. And it doesn't, though it may feel old, it doesn't feel forgotten. Because someone's made an effort to not forget it. When you visit your own ruin and you see the stuff from a world and a time that was yours, that was not just forgotten, but that was walked away from, turned aside from, and said, I don't want to be part of that anymore. That's the end. That's a whole other experience. In one of the principles in the good life, which is my personal, if I dare say the word, my personal philosophy for living, consists of 7 objectives and 23 principles. Principle number 28, I think, is the principle of complete oblivion. That after death, there's no final reunion. We'll never see the people we loved after we're gone. And when we leave first, we won't see the people that remain behind. No final reconciliation. Let me say that again, sans the loud car. No final reconciliation. If we died on sour terms, not going to get a chance to fix that, but who cares? You won't know anyway. And no final justice. You know, if someone gets away with a crime in life, they get away with it, other than having to live with that fact, if they've got a conscience. Seeing stuff like this, my dad's saw blade, forgotten and neglected and lost, and if it hadn't been for the recent fire that exposed all the brush, I wouldn't even know it's there. Just brings all that home. And it's a poignant look at mortality, especially thinking how it seems like just turning around 1 or twice or 3 times, and that was then. I was 15 years old, 16 years old, 14, 13. I think we were there when I was 12. We moved there. And yet, with the exception of a little rust, those things persist. It's completely devoid of any memory, except in the minds of those few, like myself and my brother and my mom, who can remember. a stranger visited that site, they would have no idea. Speaking of someone else visiting that site, I parked my motorcycle, if you saw that earlier video, above the property about a quarter mile, about the length of a Shinkansen bullet train. I parked it up there in order to walk back. That way, no one, if someone went by, they wouldn't see my motorcycle parked by the property. They wouldn't know anybody was on the property. In particular, we had two neighbors just above us on the other side of the road. Red Jones and his wife. Her name started with a J, but I can't remember. And then immediately next door to them was John Dowie. John Dowie and Red Jones. Now, of course, they died a long time ago. John Dowie was a very, very old man when I was there. Very, very old. He came to the United States in, I think, 1893 on a sailing ship. Jumped ship in San Francisco Bay, and then took a stagecoach down to the Los Angeles area. And I know that because he was my neighbor, and I would go, remember the kind of the feeling of wanting to look after the old, and I was a 14-year-old kid, and I would walk across the street sometimes and go up, ding dong, because I knew he was an old man all by himself. I'd go up there, ding dong, and he'd invite me in, and we'd sit there together. And this man that was an adult in the 19th century, and we would sit there he would sit there, this old man and this young boy who would sit in his kitchen there, and he'd give me something to eat, and we'd talk, and he would tell me about crossing the ocean on a sailing ship. Being in San Francisco Bay, he was German. I think, was he German? I can't remember. He was looking in San Francisco Bay, looking out, he could see San Francisco and thinking, you know what? Screw this life back here. I'm going on a great life adventure into San Francisco Bay, swimming across Alcatraz, and somehow stumbling onto Fisherman's Wharf or wherever. Can you imagine? That all happened before 1900. Remember, this guy was old, and he let me build a train, a model train in his basement, so to speak, kind of a basement. Anyway, so here's our ranch. John Dowie's place is across the street. Red Jones' place is up the way a little bit further. And there's a roadside rest up there. Now, the roadside rest has long been forgotten. It was like from the Conservation Corps thing from a long time ago. Anyway, after I was talking to you guys, after I hung up on the live, I called my brother. Actually, he called me, because I had just a little bit of bandwidth, and I sent him a picture of the ham thing. And he called me, and he said, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're there. The thing that got him was the same thing that got me. It was not the ham thing, because I'd also sent him a picture of the well house. It was the faucet on the well. Because you remember, as I do, turning that faucet and that cold, fresh water coming out from the well. It's so good. Anyway, I had walked all the way back to the roadside rest, and I was sitting on the wall of the decrepit roadside rest, and a man went by on a bicycle. And then I was talking to Lyle. I was sitting just like this. Lyle and I were talking, my brother. And he went by, and then he came back again. And he could see that I was talking to someone on the phone. He kind of politely got close, and he said, excuse me, I will let you do your thing. He wanted to talk. And he said, I see you're going somewhere. He pointed at the bike. And that opened the conversation. Turns out he was... About a year after our house burned down, he bought the house that John Dowie lived in, the old man, right? He bought that house, and he'd been living there for like decades. So he's retired, and he's got a little house up there. So we kind of helped to answer some questions for him, because he didn't know about the mystery of the burned out, ruined property down below his house, which is our place. So we told him about that. He also didn't know about, my brother was still on the phone, so I put him on FaceTime. And we were all talking. He also didn't know that John had jumped ship like he did. But here's the sad part. The same fire that I went up to investigate for, burned his house to the ground. And it also burned the Red Jones house. So I won't get into too much detail. It's his personal stuff, but he's getting by, and he's a very interesting man. I look forward to. He and I exchanged information on Instagram, so I look forward to learning more about him. And now I know the person that lives in the place where I used to live. So that's that. Let's see if there's any comments. Pardon me, such a barbarian. Let's see. Ta-da-da. Howdy, Kirk. Yes, I am live here. Yes, I think I'm doing old comments. Mina, howdy. Hi, howdy, Mina. Renee, no. Oh, there we go. How's your in-laws? There we go, the in-laws. Yes, thank you. What are you having now? Chimichanga. There's that thing. Oh, here we are. Laura. Oh, no, I did not know. Okay, yes. Thank you about the in-laws. Inglenise says, hi, Kurt. Hope you're well. I am well. Thank you. Dustin says, oh, wow. Dustin, oh, we did this one. I'm sorry, I'm doing the same one. Ancient Ruins of Living. There's a new one. Don't you think it's worthwhile for a family to have ruins? Can you have ruins that are not ruins? Like, I talked to my mom just now. I was over at her place, like I mentioned, and she was telling me some stuff that she found on the internet about our family that was rather bad. Bad man. My mom, it's kind of like original sin. You know, we carry the sins of the past with us, right? So I have to do something to expunge the sins of my ancestor. Anyway, can we have ruins that follow us like that? I guess we can. What would that be? Like the sin of my ancestor. That doesn't follow me, except maybe the reputation. I'm thinking of Judaism, like not sins, but the pain, like of the Holocaust, right? I mean, I know that as a community, that's something that would carry from one generation to another, the legacy. Interesting. Maybe that's kind of like it. Renee, I remember in a video from years ago, you saying that you had visited the site and even found some of your family's old photos. I appreciate seeing these. Yeah, I did find photos, but guess what I did? I left them there, so they all got burned up. So all of our baby photos were in that metal shed. I'll show you. Did I take a picture of it? Hold on, I'll show you the shed. So there was this shed. I can find it. A nice photo of it. Bear with me. Is that it? There it is. It's 8.2 megabytes, so take it just a second to upload. So we had this house, all of our stuff was in it. The shed, that's where all the boxes of the family treasures, the family photos and the like were all in that shed. Here's that shed. So it was melted by the original fire and collapsed by snow. But if I peeked inside, I could see the boxes of our stuff still in there. And like I said, I was kind of intrigued by the idea of it being a site of ruins, so I didn't touch anything on it. And I could see baby photos and photos of the family in there. So guess what? I never got them out. So they got burned in this recent fire. They're all gone. But I'm fine with that. The principle of complete oblivion, after all. Afternoon. Sir, is everything okay? Not really. I've got cataracts. I need to get some surgery. There's pain in my joints. I make a lot of mistakes all the time. I'm plagued by worry. It's like, other than that, things are okay. But who am I to talk about me? I wouldn't mention it, but you asked. Thank you for asking, Christopher. But yeah, in the sense that you meant, yeah, I'm fine. Oh well, yeah. That's fascinating. Oh, I'm glad you like it. Oh, I need my glasses for that one. Bablu, 1666. We always go back to our roots in the end. We all go back to the scene of the crime inevitably. Dwell on that. That's a heavy, heavy thought. Well, going back to the scene of the crime, I was wondering as I was riding around today why I kept going to the same places. You know, I went to Castaic, to Lake Hughes, to visit my mom, to this place where I always go. Is it because it's familiar? Is that returning to the scene of the crime, perhaps? Laurel Oars. My husband's home was bulldozed by a university. We took the flowers that his mom planted. That's awesome. I like the idea of rescuing the flowers. Although, wouldn't it kind of be neat also? It was bulldozed, so it would be all gone. If somehow those flowers could have survived and be popping up, you know, every year in like bulbs popping up on the university. Sup, Softy Papa, me viewer too. Almost finished with my lunch dinner. I'm gonna hit the road. Well, anyway, thank you all for joining me for a little more time. This has been fun. Kind of a different way of doing these, huh? Finding places along the way to stop and chat. I hope all of you are doing well. It's the start of the weekend, or maybe you're already into the weekend wherever you are. Wouldn't that be something? For me, it's one more day. Tomorrow's family day, and then work on Sunday, and then back to work in earnest. Although Mino says, although the past might already have happened, it still can haunt us in our present. What do you think happens? So can you transmit that haunted nature to others? Like if I tell my daughter a painful story that happened to me in life that haunts me, can that haunting then be passed on to her to carry on with that? Laura says, so take care, be careful, but yeah, you know, thank you. Babalu 1666, yeah, that's what I meant. We always go back to what was most familiar to us early in our lives. I have experienced it recently too. So yeah, why do we do that? Oh, I have an idea. Maybe it's because we oldsters are the caretakers of precedent. Either the precedent of what worked or the remembrance and reminder of what didn't work. And by haunting the past with our old stories and our old ways, we kind of make what we the best with the best experience and the wisdom of our past of our lives available on display for those that are coming up, our children and grandchildren. I kind of like trauma. It's kind of like trauma in a sense, Mino says. So remembering the past is like trauma. Why would you want to have trauma over again? So that we don't do it again? Perhaps. I mean, is that an example of those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it? Perhaps. Christopher says, hi, Kurt. Heading to the desert? No, I'm in the desert, but I'm not headed out into the real desert, which is a curious thing. I'll talk on that in just a second. Lauren says, do you think that being a minimalist and not keeping a lot of things causes places to be special and bring back memories? I think that could be true. If you don't, if you don't, if you don't, carry your memories of your past in tchotchkes, then the places have to contain those elements, right? Interesting point, Laura. Let's talk about that. I was supposed to go to the desert 24 hours ago on Wednesday night. And I flat out chickened out. You know how so many, I wouldn't say you, because I don't know if any of you, how many of you are there? All the 16 of you out there. I don't know if any of you are part of it, but when I have lots of people that contact me that dream about the adventure, but then back out at the last minute. I'm very familiar with that experience. I did it 24 hours ago. About this same time, I was all done with work on Wednesday night, and I was resolved to not only go to Siberia, the bike's all loaded. Everything's on there. I was resolved to go to Siberia, pardon me, and then I was going to head out to the Colorado River, and I even had ambitions to go ride around in Arizona. 3 full days, all through Wednesday. I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I don't know if I'm going to do it. I'm not going to do it. My wife, Yumiko, was actually a little disappointed in me. In a loving way. She knows how important these experiences are to me. She also knows that my average is about 75%, 80% of the time when I set out for these, I actually follow it through. 25% of the time I don't. I back out. Yes, this was one of them. But frankly, when I was younger, I backed out because I was afraid of the unknown. I was afraid of what was going to happen. What could happen to me? What bad things could happen to me all alone in the desert or all alone in the mountains, even in Japan. Same ratio, maybe 50%. Maybe 50% of the time when I set out to the mountains, I didn't go. I know it looked like I was always in hiking. I only did that, every other, maybe 2 days, maybe 1 day a month. But I got a lot of videos so I could spread out and made it look like I did a lot. So I didn't do it. This time it wasn't because of fear as much as just exhaustion. I'm just getting old. And as Emerson wrote, the wise man stays at home. And more, even though I can't necessarily explain Emerson's words, I can understand them, and I'm beginning to live them. Not meaning that I'm wise, but meaning that I'm starting to realize that I don't have to go anywhere for the good life. Let's see. Just for the fondness, Babalu says, just for the fondness of the past, I remember only the good parts, not the bad. The bad eventually phases out. But isn't remembering the bad the better part of wisdom? Or at least remembering it insofar as you don't, maybe not dwelling on it. Maybe you remember it and then utilize it when an opportunity comes up, so you don't repeat the mistake. Mino says, that would be a natural learning process. We ate poisonous food and people died until we learned not to eat them. Yes. And likewise, we heard a rustle in the branches and we assumed it was a tiger, even if it wasn't. Those that ran away survived. Those that didn't, well, so naturally we're suspicious and we're scared and we're willing to make up things. I think I got a little off on the weeds there. Jolina, I don't know if I pronounced your name right. You're an old friend. Not that you're old, but I've known you for a long time. I hope all is well. When I go back to Chicago, I always visit my family home, now owned by another family, and my grade school. I always get very emotional, partly because I miss my family that has since passed, and being the age where I had no cares in the world, the happiest time of my life. Very nice. Bob Blue says, you should listen to Boys of Summer by Don Henley, all about remembering the past, nostalgia, or Light Years by The Midnight. One of my favorite songs. I love the Boys of Summer. I haven't read that. I haven't seen that part of it, so I'm going to listen to it with new ears. Mino says, you cannot expect anything from life. Life does not expect anything from you. I certainly do agree with that. What an interesting thought. Well, maybe I need to think about that a little more. What can we possibly expect from life? Can I expect the sun to come up tomorrow? I can hope for it. Interesting. I'm going to think about that. You know, in the end, death only wants you to die, and that's all. Do you think death even has any cognizance, thought on the matter? I know you're writing that in the more literary sense of death only wants you to do that, and I do agree. I think death is engineered into us to get the hell out of the way, so that we can make room for. The timing is perfect, right? Just long enough to make sure our children become viable, old enough to be viable and reproduce on their own, and we can help a little bit with the grandkids, and then get the hell out of the way, right? Old man and old woman, we had enough of you. Okay, on that friendly thought, let's go ahead and sign off. 41 minutes in. Take care, everybody. Have a great day, and I need to change the thing to the bottom to say be safe, but not too safe. I'll figure that out. Next stop, home. Should I go through, okay, what do you guys think? Should I go through the desert to get home, or should I go right down through downtown LA? Let me know what you think. If I go through LA and it's still sunlight, I can stop on Sunset Boulevard and do a live from Sunset Boulevard. With that, I'll just hang on for a second while I get some more water. Let me know if you want to see that. Does anybody nobody's got an opinion? No one's got a preference or an opinion? Desert. Usually I go through the desert if it's sundown because I like to watch the sunset. Angelina says Sunset Boulevard is her vote. Sunset. Okay, Sunset it is. So if I leave right now, I should be able to get there before sundown. Do you want to see like by the Man's Chinese Theater? How about that? Maybe I'll park the bike over by or Grumman Man's Chinese. Remember where all the Hollywood place where all the handprints and the fingerprint and the footprints? Would that do? Jeliana? Am I pronouncing your name right? Jeliana? Jeliana? I'm embarrassed. I've known you forever. Good thing you didn't go to Siberia, or the live stream would have never happened. No, you're right. Hey, thanks, Christopher. I'm glad you enjoy this or find it interesting. Bob Blue says, if you're feeling introspective, the desert. If you're feeling active and energetic, then Sunset Boulevard. Maybe. Although lately, Sunset Boulevard's been a ghost town. But it's Friday night. Let's go check it out. So I'm going to go ahead and choose Sunset Boulevard. Jelena says, yes, the theater. Okay, I can't guarantee you that I can get right next to the theater because it's typically crowded. But if it's a ghost town, then I'll try. I'll park, and maybe the next stop is live from Sunset Boulevard. Okay, I'll see you there. See you in maybe an hour or so. Okay, bye-bye. Jelena. That's all. It's a beautiful name. Jelena. I'm gonna memorize that. Forgive me if I fail. Okay, bye-bye, Jelena. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a good one. Talk to you soon, maybe at sunset. Sunset at sunset.